big businesses have incredible founder stories, incredible entrepreneurs that have started it out, and it's that story that people then really buy into. Which is why, if you think about even a brand like Nike, why is it that they're willing to pay millions and millions of pounds to athletes, to the celebrities, to go and get them to represent their brand? And the reason why is because it's lots of personal brands. So as I was saying from before, this wasn't an opportunity that was available to the average everyday person as it is now. But right now, like, just by having a personal brand that reflects your values, your identity, your vision, and who you are and your authenticity, this immediately makes you more attractive to other companies who you can partner with that will give you any product that you want to sell. Because here's the truth, there is no lack of great products in this world. Most of them already exist. I mean, we're literally entering an era where we're about to have like robots, humanoid robots that look just like humans. And you'll literally be able to buy these on the internet over the next few years when AI integrates with the physical technology as well. And you will literally be able to buy humans. There's no lack of bad products in the world. There's really great products out there, and there's really great companies. Now, do we have a lack of people? No. There's no lack of people. There's no lack of great stories. What there is a lack of is great personal brands. And the difference between just a person and a personal story and a personal brand that's a good quality one is that person can have a great story, but no one knows about that story. No one's heard about the story. No one's connected with that person. So you could be watching this right now and you're like, damn, I have a great story. I could be a great personal brand. Companies could partner with me with whatever products that they've got. I could sell products like Tesla's humanoid bots, or, I could sell my favorite cars, whatever it is. I have a great story. Only problem, no one knows. All right, welcome back to Mo's Flow, the show where souls grow and hearts glow. And in today's episode, I'm going to be talking about this idea about branding and how people are really getting it backwards when it comes to building their own businesses, because they are trying to build a business from an outdated mindset and mentality that is a past era that's already gone. It's finished, right? So just to give you a little bit of a understanding as to what I'm personally seeing right now in terms of the current climate, and this is brought about not just from what the experts are saying, but it's also based off of like me speaking to people who are a little bit older, been in business for a little bit longer, and kind of like the traditional mindset in comparison. So I was actually having a conversation earlier on today with someone else who was telling me about his store and how he is a business owner, shut it down during the pandemic, and then afterwards is now looking to build it back open. And the whole thing that his business plan was around selling these products that he really believed in himself because of the impact that it had on his own life. And, what we sort of discovered was that the whole business was centered around this one product, but he hadn't included much at all about himself. So in terms of what he was building with this business model, he didn't even really know whether or not it was the ideal one for him. Why? Because he said that he hadn't even looked around at other business models. It was just more like, this is just a good product. I can make some money here and it's helped me. But he wasn't assessing like, should I do it brick and mortar? Should I do it online? Should I do like in a way where I'm using paid ads, or so he wasn't really thinking about the business aspects, which is what I see a lot of people do as well, especially when they are going in from like an emotional place rather than thinking logically around, which one's going to get me the best ROI, which one's going to get me the best cost of fulfillment, which is going to get me the best LTV, lifetime customer value, the highest profit margins. They're not thinking about this stuff, right? So I get it, but of course, this is the starting point, and then there's levels to the game. So the ideal business model, if you don't know, is the one where it does have low cost to acquire a customer, number one, because then you're able to scale it massively for low cost. If you've got rent to pay, if you've got more buildings that you've got to open, etc., then chances are your cost per acquisition is always going to be high compared to the person that can just work from a laptop, put out an advertisement, potentially even for free on social media, and that can bring them in new leads into their business. Like, that's a lot more scalable than it is to do it in the offline sense. Not saying that you want to completely move away from online and from offline and do everything online. I do believe that human connection right now, more than anything in this era, is becoming more and more important. But at the same time, like, having a complete brick and mortar business in this day and age just blows my mind that people are still considering that as being like the number one way that they want to build their business, when there's so much opportunity to leverage online tools like AI. But this is the world that we live in. So what I'm sharing here is that, like, when he was thinking about putting this business model together and starting to get his first set of customers and everything like that, he did have a little bit of what I would call like this backwards mindset, where you're thinking first about product and you're not thinking about brand, right? Because the difference there is that when you start thinking about brand first, you're putting your desires, your needs, and your wants ahead of everything else. And you're actually doing a process of reverse engineering, which is where you start from the end and then you come to the beginning. So a lot of people try to work from where they are to where they want to be, but it's actually nonsensical when you think about it. Why? Because imagine for a second, like, we throw in an analogy where you are going to board a ship to get to the destination, which is what a business really is. It's a vehicle that can take you to where you ever want to go. So if you want to board this ship and it's going to take you to a different island or country, but you don't actually know, like, specifically what island you want to land in. You don't know specifically what destination that you're going to go to. That's the same thing as like going for a drive to a place where you've never been before and putting in sat nav inside of the car, but not actually entering in a destination, and just hoping that by pressing the pedal, you're going to end up exactly where you want to be. That's just going to cause so much uncertainty for you at some point that you're probably just not even going to continue moving. You're going to stay stuck. You're going to stagnate. You're going to quit. Whereas if you get absolutely certain and convicted about the end destination that you are looking to move towards and work towards, then you now have conviction in your direction. And you'll be able to see, am I on course? Am I off course? And you can just simply get yourself back on track until you do eventually reach the place that you actually want to be at. I love the saying that people talk about when it comes to climbing the wrong ladder. A lot of people, they spend 30, 40 years, whether it's in a job, even in a business, climbing the wrong ladder, realizing that once they got to the top, it's like, damn, this isn't actually what I want. This isn't the life that I can see myself living in long term. I'm going to have to build something else to now solve a new problem. Now, I'm not saying that any one ladder is absolutely perfect, but what I am saying is that some ladders can take you a lot closer to the lifestyle that you desire. So if you desire a lifestyle where you have more time freedom, You're able to travel, you're able to be spending time with the people who you actually enjoy connecting with. Like, there are certain business models that are just not going to take you up to have that particular view and that life because of how much it requires from you in terms of your own time, your effort, your energy. If you desire to have a lot of wealth and financial abundance, there's certain business models that are just not going to give you that. So you can work hard in climbing the ladder. Like, for example, in a job, you can work hard climbing the ladder all the way to the top, but you're never going to have real financial prosperity and abundance that can come from getting to the top. Why? Because you're going to get taxed like 40%. You're going to also be limited by how much you can earn because you're trading time for money until it becomes a business. Like, no employer is ever going to pay you more than you could ever pay yourself. So climbing the wrong ladder only really happens when you don't have concrete certainty in the end destination as to where you want to get to. But when you take it from this new approach, which is, no, you're going to reverse engineer, not just from what business you want or how much money you want to make, you're going to reverse engineer from what life do you want. So one of the best exercises that I did in the beginning of my journey was this exercise that they call the perfect day exercise. And how it works, if you've never done it before, is you just literally write out in detail everything that you would experience on your perfect day from start to finish, morning to the evening. And then through doing this exercise, it gives you such a clear picture as to where you truly want to end up. And now you can reverse engineer from this. So working backwards, it could be, let's say, for example, your perfect day might be that you want to be in a luxurious house that you own and you get to live in there and do whatever you want. You got your family there with you and they're all not working either. You're spending time with them. You go on your holidays whenever you want. Maybe you book a random flight somewhere, great country. You're eating incredible food. You have a business, but the business doesn't require your time. So imagine like you're just describing this perfect day right now, right? And then after you've done that, now you can start thinking about, okay, well, what's going to be the ideal vehicle for me to reach this point of experiencing my perfect day? But if you'd have done it in the reverse order, it wouldn't have made sense. So this is why, like, I personally believe that branding precedes product, because in the perfect day, in your experience, you as a human, as a soul, like, there are certain things that you just won't want to have happen. So the way that you build your business could be in such a way where you end up trying to just aim for more money, more results, more success in that way, but as a cost to your fulfillment. And that was like one of the biggest mistakes, lessons that I had to learn. And I'm glad that I did at the time that I did. No one ever taught me this. It was just something that I realized through the messing up, is the best way to put it. Building a business that felt more like a prison than it did a freedom vehicle. Why? Because I didn't focus on brand first, or let's say enough. So the difference becomes like when you put brand first, you actually start to, number one, like start magnetizing people into your life that you actually like to spend time with, like you actually enjoy having conversations with, clients that are more like dream clients instead of nightmare clients. But if you're focused solely on product, then the experience that you get to have is nowhere near as quality as it could be, because it's not as intentional. So the three main variables when it comes to success in business is, number one thing that you want to consider, of course, like you want to think about what's going to be your ROI, your return on investment. And that's as far as people get. That's all they think about. But the most successful people, they're so good at business that it gets to a point where they don't care about ROI no more. And they know that like they'll be able to take any business and make it great most of the time, as long as like it's a decent business model. But ROI is like the least of their concern. What's a lot more concerning for them is ROE and it's ROL, which is not return on investment, but it's return on energy and it's return on life. So if you're putting in like loads of effort into a particular business model, but for the effort that you're putting in, you're not actually liking the amount of energy that it's giving you, it could be draining your energy, then that's not ideal. And you'll appreciate a lot more the energy that you do have right now once you start being drained of it. Like you'll be like, damn, no amount of money in the world could make me want to live this way, because it's just worse. And this is the truth about business too, is that money is an amplifier. So the more that you scale your business, the more that you're going to notice that everything that is painful that exists within you doesn't get solved by you just getting more profits. It gets exposed. So if you're not aware of it, you'll really see it. And these pains that you're experiencing at a low level, if not truly solved at the core, like just adding more money to it, is going to make things a lot worse. So this is a warning to you right now. If you're in a place, in a position where you're thinking, yeah, I've got somebody who can maybe invest in my business, or I've worked really hard in my job and I'm just going to chuck some money into my business, or I'm just going to put more time and effort into it because I hate what it's like right now, I'm just going to just work harder. That's not a good idea. It's not a good idea. The myth that is spoken about in today's society of like just work harder and your life will get better, it's not the truth. Now, I'm not saying that hard work doesn't have any benefit to it. Of course, it does in the right vehicle. But the truth is that you do want to be working smarter, which is where we start looking at being more intentional and reverse engineering from the end in mind. So this is as well, this is like how God creates, because he begins with the end in mind. He knows everything all at once. So before he has started, he's already finished. And that's the same approach that you want to take. And I love how Jim Rohn puts this as well. If you look at that on a macro level, you can see it as you can have a big vision for your business of what it'd be like in the next 10, 15, 20 years. You could have a big vision for your life. And on a micro level, Jim Rohn says that you never want to start the day until you finished it. What does he mean by that? He means that you want to every single day have an intention for that day as to what will make you win that day. What's actually going to be the thing that if you was to achieve this one thing, you'd feel accomplished, you'd feel successful. And as long as you have these successful days and they stack up, they start compounding, and that's when you start experiencing the exponential growth. So, yeah, going back to this idea about branding first. Everything in the past was around find a good product and put it on your website, business page, put it in your brick and mortar business, whatever, and just let customers come in. And if people want it, they'll buy it. If not, that's how it'll work. And that was the backwards mentality when it came to business. But right now we've moved into a new era, which is so evident by how much, the rise of influencers in this new economy has taken center. So in the past, we were in eras where it was like the land era. It was the rise of the internet from the first time, even before social media. There was the industrial age, the agricultural age. So it was like all these different eras meant that whatever business model that you went into back then would reflect the era that you were in as to how much value you could possibly gain. But in this new era that we're moving into right now, this is like, we're already moved from this partnership era where influencers will partner with big platforms like Instagram, YouTube, etc., and they can simply put out media for free, which is crazy when you think about it. The fact that I can put out hours worth of content on YouTube for free is wild. Because if you go back 100 years ago, to do something like this and getting a message across to the masses would have been just impossible. If not impossible, it would have been highly expensive. So with the new availability, with the tools that we have in communication and all this leverage, what it means now is that to jump on these platforms and everything like this, you can now put a brand out and it costs you barely anything. So you can be going on social medias like Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, all these places, and just be expressing who you are as a personality. And because people buy into people, it's so much more effective to have a personal brand for your business than it is to just have a product and a business. Now we have the Trinity all together. And I personally believe that it's always existed. You know, when you look at the biggest businesses of the world, the most successful ones, look at something like, this is a controversial opinion, but like even religion is a business. The Christianity, like the amount of products that they've sold, things like books, like they've sold millions for many, many years as well. Why? Because it was a great business model and they had the Trinity. So they had the business brand, which is like the actual religion, number one. Then they had the product brand, which is like the book. But then they've also got the personal brand there. And that personal brand is the central figure, the leader, who is the one that people follow and have truly bought into as a story. Now, back then, like they didn't have social media as I know, or that we're aware of. But because he was such a great leader, that's what helped in terms of being able to make this a successful business. It's a similar thing with, like, you know, you look at Marvel movies, the Avengers. Why do people buy movie tickets? Why do people buy merchandise? It's because the personal brand stories are so profound and incredible that people want to buy stuff after they feel a certain type of way. So here's the truth. People, number one, don't like to be sold, but they all hate to buy. I didn't say that right. People hate to be sold, but they love to buy. That's the truth. The second thing, people don't buy products, they buy people. They buy stories. A third thing, people don't buy based off of logic, they buy on feeling and emotion. So what creates emotion? Stories. Stories create emotions within people. Stories evoke emotions, which is why it's so necessary to have a personal story as part of your business. And it always has been. Now, from what average businesses will do is that they won't have such an incredible story that people buy into as a community, but they'll more so rely on individual salespeople to share their own unique stories as to how they can be connecting. But big businesses have incredible founder stories, incredible entrepreneurs that have started it out. And it's that story that people then really buy into, which is why if you think about even a brand like Nike, why is it that they're willing to pay millions and millions of pounds to athletes, to the celebrities, to go and get them to represent their brand? And the reason why is because it's lots of personal brands. So as I was saying from before, this wasn't an opportunity that was available to the average everyday person as it is now. But right now, like just by having a personal brand that reflects your values, your identity, your vision, and who you are and your authenticity, this immediately makes you more attractive to other companies who you can partner with that will give you any product that you want to sell. Because here's the truth, there is no lack of great products in this world. Most of them already exist. I mean, we're literally entering an era where we're about to have like robots, humanoid robots that look just like humans. And you'll literally be able to buy these on the internet over the next few years when AI integrates with the physical technology as well. And you will literally be able to buy humans. There's no lack of bad products in the world. There's really great products out there, and there's really great companies. Now, do we have a lack of people? No. There's no lack of people. There's no lack of great stories. What there is a lack of is great personal brands. And the difference between just a person and a personal story and a personal brand that's a good quality one is that person can have a great story, but no one knows about that story. No one's heard about the story. No one's connected with that person. So you could be watching this right now and you're like, damn, I have a great story. I could be a great personal brand. Companies could partner with me with whatever products that they've got. I could sell products like Tesla's humanoid bots, or, I could sell my favorite cars, whatever it is. I have a great story. Only problem, no one knows. No one knows my story. No one knows my value. No one knows the experiences that I've been through. No one knows what I believe in. And that's the problem. But what if they did? If people knew who you were, and I'm not saying it has to be everyone. You don't have to become someone like Kim Kardashian, Kylie Jenner, like everybody knows you and knows you for right reasons, wrong reasons. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that a specific demographic of people who are the ones that can be in what I'd like to call your soul tribe, they connect with you on such a deep level. Those people know you. And if those people know you, they like you, they trust you, that just makes you so valuable right now in the marketplace. And the reason why is because you can become this middleman between the customers and the companies that have amazing products. So this is that big shift that's had to occur, is people in changing this paradigm from, we have to be creating lots of good stuff, or we have to be manufacturing it, or focused all on product. No, that's not what it's about. A lot more of it right now is about you actually being able to put out your personal brand first, and then after that, it's going to be bridging the gaps, connecting the dots. Now, here's the truth. Some people do get success without putting out personal brands. Some people are able to build a business where they just slap a product onto a website, Instagram pages, get a bunch of people to follow it, and people buy. So I'm not saying that it's impossible. What I'm saying is that it's just harder. Like, if those people can get great results doing it the hard way, imagine the level of success that they can get doing it a much easier way. And when I'm talking about being hard versus easy, because the truth is like, there is no easy way to become successful in business. There's just an easier way. And that's truth. The best analogy that I can give there is it's the difference between swimming upstream and trying to go against the current, going against the waves. That's one direction that you can go in. And that's what people are doing in what I call the backwards era, the backwards mindset. But if you're not swimming against the waves, and you're going with the current. You're surfing the waves. Surfing, if you've ever tried it before in your life, I love surfing, so I've done it many times over. Now, the first time that I did it, however, like the whole day, I spent like 8 hours. I'm pretty good with sport. I'm good with my body, but I could not stand up a single time. Like, if I did, I was gone within a second on the floor. So those guys make it look easy, because it is. It's so much easier than just swimming against the current. And the amount of hours that I put into trying to learn to swim versus trying to learn to surf, if I put the same hours into surfing versus swimming, I'd probably be just as good at surfing as I am at swimming. And I'm not that good at swimming either. There's a few stories that I can share there around how terrible I am at swimming. That's for another day. But to surf versus to swim, it's so much quicker and easier once you do actually master it and you get good at it. Right? And that's the difference, because life is going to go in a particular direction which you have no control over. So rather than trying to control everything that's going on in your life, what's a lot better to do and a lot wiser is to simply allow for the flow of life to occur and don't resist it. Go with the waves. And this is going to be something of which some of y'all, like, you really need to hear right now, because you want life to be different to what it really is. You want things to be how they used to be. You reminisce on the older days, the good old days, whatever you like to call it. Why can't things be like they were before? So simple, so easy. You would just put in money, get a store, and then people would just come in and buy your stuff. Like, simpler times back then. Didn't cost as much to live, etc. But you're living in the past, and you have to come into the real world, present, where I would actually argue that this is the easiest time to be an entrepreneur. This is the easiest time to build a business. This is the easiest time to become highly successful. But when you have conditioning that has programmed your mind to stay small, to stay unseen, to stay invisible, then it's going to be a hard time for you, not in building the business, but the hard time is going to be in reprogramming your subconscious mind. That's the hardest part about this new era, about moving from scarcity to abundance, about going from working hard to now working more in flow, about changing things up internally. And you might not necessarily even be aware of all the subconscious limiting beliefs that exist within you. But it's about seeing, like, what is it that you don't like about the idea of your target audience, who would literally be walking into your store anyway, in and out, seeing you for who you are, having conversations, and you literally having them come to you, you not having to go to them. Like, literally this morning, today, this is the experience that I'm talking about in personal branding and attraction marketing. This morning I woke up, and before I even was able to get changed and eat my first meal, I had 2 calls inbound come through out of nowhere. Why? Because I do personal branding. And people can come in to my store online the same way that people can do that offline too. But I don't have like a self-checkout process. It's a sales educational transformational process, which means that people still speak with me on the phone. Now, I could set it in a way where I automate that transformational process, and I have got a massive part of it that is automated. So this is something that you can do too. But I like to speak with who I'm going to be working with. Why? Because we're going to have an ongoing relationship, and I've had it before where people have come through completely automatically, and I didn't want to continue the relationship. So that's why I do what I do. But you get the gist of what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that the mindset that you have, you got to check. It's like, why would you be opposed to having a whole customer base and queue of people at your door for your business, but just online. If it was offline, you'd be absolutely fine with it. But the reason why usually is because you still haven't been truly liberated from the ignorant opinions of a select few of people that you care about, the opinions that they have. That's the main reason. And it's not the masses of people. You don't really care about whether or not a stranger in a different country sees your profile and puts out a snarky comment or gives you some hate. You don't care about that. What you care about right now is what maybe your parents are going to say about it. What you care about right now is what that person who you want to like you says about it. What you care about right now is what your boss at work says about it. What you care about right now is what maybe your siblings, family say about it, your friends. That's what you care about. But you can probably count these people on two hands. This is usually what happens when I ask, like, okay, what's the worst that would happen if you put yourself out there, you start being more visible? What would be the worst that could happen? Oh, so-and-so could find out. Okay, cool. We go through this process and realize that maybe 5 to 6 people would find out. But really, aside from that, you don't care. So the big reason as to why you're holding yourself back from just simply putting yourself out there a little bit a day. I'm not saying that you've got to do hours and hours of this. Even if you did 30 minutes a day, half an hour a day, or an hour a day, and being disciplined doing that for 30 days, a year, 5 years, just so that you could have inbound customers, clients coming through. They were your ideal client in your soul tribe. It's an absolute no-brainer. But you don't want it to happen. Why? Because, again, you're fixated on what a couple of people are going to say when you put yourself out there and make yourself vulnerable somewhat. But the truth is that vulnerability means putting yourself under potential threat. And when you think about it, like, when it comes to the absolute worst thing that could happen, if one of those people who found out that you were putting yourself online, if you had one of those people find out, what would be the absolute worst thing that could happen? What would you lose? And it's like the only thing that you would really lose would be potential reputation from people that didn't truly see what you saw, because you're actually the smart one. They're the ones that don't see. You're the one who is recognizing what era we're in and that there has to be a switch that's made. That just simply trying to play it safe doesn't make any sense anymore. You're the one that sees that. They have not been given your vision. So who's the stupid one now? Who's the one that's coming from a place of ignorance now? Is it you? The one that's actually being brave, putting yourself out there? Or is it the one that's still stuck in the past and wants you to stay in the past as well? Which one is it? And who do you want to be? You want to be the person that's stuck in the past? Or do you want to be the person that's actually moving with the times, giving yourself an opportunity to thrive? And I think the biggest fear that then comes in for people is that, okay, I get what you're talking about. I see that the most successful people right now in business, they have an online personal brand and they are relatable, they're authentic, and people buy into them. I get it. Logically, this makes a lot of sense. However, practically, how do I know that I'm going to get results? How do I know that my page is going to go viral or it's going to reach the specific people? What if I went and did exactly what you said, put out content for 5 years straight, or I put out content for 9 years and I got nothing. What if that happens? And that fear of futility is valid, of course, to have that in any arena. But the question is, are you treating this as if it's some sort of lottery ticket where it's a game of luck and there's no precision, there's no science to it whatsoever? Or are you looking at it like, as I just said, like this is physics and it works when you understand the science of the game? And all you got to do is play the game enough. You might not necessarily be a good artist, because anything that's scientific requires an artist to get good results with it. So you might not be a good artist yet. But if you know the science and you become a good artist, then how likely is it that it won't work? Is that even possible? And if you don't know about the law of possibility, I'll tell you right now. The law of possibility states that anything that seems physically impossible is actually possible through leverage. Anything that's spiritually impossible is not actually impossible. Everything is spiritually possible through spiritual leverage. So here's the thing, is that this question of, would it be possible if you became the great artist, a master at your craft, and you also applied the sciences to attraction marketing, putting out your personal brand? Would it be possible that you have a queue of people coming through the door every single day, lining up to come and work with you? You're not having to put out any paid advertisements. It's just literally inbound. Is that possible? The answer, the way that I view it, yeah, absolutely. So what would be the reasons as to why that wouldn't work, that would have a low likelihood of success? Well, number one is that you haven't interpreted the actual science of the game. You think you know how it all works, but it's not the real. And most people tend to gravitate towards being the professors before they get started. This is me, for sure. I'm the type of one that, like, I know all the theory up front. I'll read all the books. I'll watch all the videos. I'll consume. My first year of entrepreneurship, I consumed 100 books. Second, third, fourth, fifth year, I consumed hundreds of hours of content of people teaching me how to do the work rather than me doing it myself. Why? Because I wanted certainty. I wanted to know that if I was going to go and put in time and effort, that it was going to get me a result. I didn't want to look stupid and get nothing out of it. But when I look back, like, that's one of my biggest regrets. Because if I'd have just been willing to look stupid, I know that eventually I would have learned way more quicker. Because just through me, like, doing this process over the last, 30 days or so, however long it's been since I've been putting out these videos, every single day I've noticed myself picking up on new things, learning a lot more, way quicker than it would have been if I'd have just, studied from other people that were telling me how it worked for them. Because this is another big thing. Like, at the end of the day, you're going to find a style that works best for you. And you're only going to really find that once you start actually putting in the reps, doing in the work, seeing how it feels for yourself. So what I'm saying is that, like, there's the science, but there's also, like, your science. And you got to know both. You can know the science before you get started. I think that's a good idea, to learn that stuff, how the algorithm works, to know how human psychology works, to know how human desire works, like, to know more about how you can set up a video, record it in a way which is going to be engaging, get the right cameras, etc. I think it's good to know the science, but then your science, there's a lot more about what feels best for you. How do you show up consistently in a way where your best self is showing up? How are you improving? What have you got in place to stay disciplined? Like, this is all your science now. So the two of these are important. But then on the other side, it's about the artistry, right? So you'll learn both of these two along the way, and it might not take long at all to get good with both of them. But the artistry definitely will take time. Now, when you think about what are we really talking about when we're describing artistry? Well, in general, artistry is about being creative. It's about being able to take an idea and bring it forth, whether it's through painting, making music, or just simply even how you're expressing your thoughts and feelings. This is artistry, it's expression. And in the beginning, your artistry is never going to be anywhere near as refined as it will be later on down the line. And usually, people talk about this level of mastery where it will take you 10,000 hours in order to become a master in a particular field. And as the saying goes, is that money follows mastery. So if you are truly committed to mastery in a particular area, then you have to be willing to put in 10,000 hours at least. Now, there are some things where you can make a lot of money, you can become successful quicker. Why? Because it's not exactly a difficult thing to master. For example, tying your shoelaces. Some people could say that they mastered that after the first day of doing it, which might be the case. You may have mastered it, but it's not like a high level skill. Whereas something that's more of a high level skill, and it's a bit more general, you could say like something like communication, something like marketing, something like relationships, like these things are more general, but probably requires more like 10,000 hours to master. So what I'm saying is that like in the area of branding and putting yourself out there so that other people will be coming into you inbound, are you committed to 5 years of putting in the work to master that for what the payoff can give you? And chances are you won't be unless you fit into one of two boxes. Anything that I've personally taken to a level of mastery or close to it, usually for me, it's fitted into the first box, which is that I just really enjoyed it. I absolutely loved it. I had a passion for it. So things like that for me in the beginning when I was younger was sports. I did not care about the payoff at all. I was not thinking about the outcome. I wasn't thinking about the money. All I was thinking about was, I just love how this makes me feel. I love waking up every single day and getting to play sports from morning till night. Did not care about the outcome whatsoever. That's like the real expression of the artist in its truest authenticity. So that's like one thing that will help you to be committed is how much enjoyment do you derive from what you're doing? How much does this really light you up and make you feel passionate about it? But then the second thing that I would say is that if you know what the payoff can truly be in the long term of being committed to mastery, you're more likely to stick it out because you know that it's worth it, even when the passion subsides. Because that is also something that is consistent with every single thing that I took close towards mastery, is that there came a point where I either got bored or it became painful and I just wanted to quit. And I I transitioned to doing something else. So I personally believe that if not only I knew what the payoff was, but I also was certain that by continuing on the journey and the path that I was on, that I would reach that payoff like 100%, I would have kept going. So I think in endurance, these are two important factors: is how much is it in alignment with what it is that you personally enjoy, what it is that you personally feel passionate about. And then the second thing is, how much do you actually have awareness around the payoff and what it can get you in terms of value, what it can give to you. And if you raise your awareness in that area, then you have a high likelihood of sticking it out. And the biggest problem that people have is not necessarily anything related towards their talent and how good they are on paper before they get started. In every single endeavor that I started with, I started on day one just as terrible as everyone else. You know, I show this with like my first ever video that I put out quite a few years ago. Even though I didn't fully go all into personal branding, I've been doing sales, I've been doing stuff within leadership, training for many years now. But I show the first video that I ever put out online because that's the starting point for putting out like, you know, video content. And it's a night and day difference compared to what I'm like right now, where I can literally speak for a long duration with ease, in flow, and to do so with a level of competence and actually put out a valuable message to my viewers, of which I usually get pretty strong feedback as well, that it was beneficial, it was insightful. So this is the thing. Endurance is, as we were saying, like it's the key component. It's not about talent, not even about hard work. It's about endurance. How long are you going to endure the pain, the experience? And if you're willing to go through months, years even, without quitting, without seeing results, then that's probably the best indicating factor that you're in the right model of what you're doing. Which is, again, like why branding is one of the best things that you can do up front, because you can quickly start to recognize, you know, what is it that you are doing that doesn't feel good. You might be talking about something that you don't care about whatsoever. But for me, how I know that like my brand is so in alignment with my essence, my soul, is because I could literally talk for hours on the topics that I talk about and still feel that it lights me up. I'm passionate about these things. But if I was on this call and I was like, oh my God, by the end of that, I felt drained, I felt exhausted, then I know that this isn't really the right message that I should be putting out there. But sometimes it's literally like, oh yeah, I'll be going on a walk, having a little bit of a think, and I'm like, yo, I can't wait to go and share this. That's how you know, like, you have come into alignment and you have got potential for sustained endurance. And this is, again, like one of the things that I love about branding too, is that compared to just having a product that stays the same and stays fixed, and you wanted to then like switch to a different one, when you switch to a different one, you're starting from scratch. Whereas with branding, like you don't have to do that. You could be speaking about one thing in the beginning that you're more passionate about, that you're interested in, and then you kind of start transitioning to something different, but it's still the same person. So can you think of examples of people like that? And one of them that comes to mind for me is like someone like Russell Brand, who in his earlier career, in his years, like he was very much a guy that was more into, you know, pleasure and things like women and drugs and partying. But now if you look at his content more recently, completely changed and shifted to where he's a lot more philosophical and spiritual and talking about health and politics. Like it's all changed. but he's built upon the brand that he started with, and it's just evolved. So because he himself has stayed the same, it's been a continuation. Whereas with a product, if you change something outside of you externally and you switch to something else, or you switch to a different company, that external is changing. So this is why I'm saying, like, you could be fully in love with a product or a company, and that's where you're at with it right now. You're passionate about it. But there's no guarantee that you're going to be passionate about that same thing in 5 to 10, 15 years' time. There's no guarantee. And there's no guarantee that that product that you're passionate about right now, that you switch and you're no longer passionate about, that you don't want to come back to in 5, 10 years' time. So the safest thing that you can really do is to just build this personal brand, which is people developing more and more trust within yourself because you're showing up consistently, because you're staying in your integrity, you're showing character, you're showing that you care, you're being honest, you're being transparent, you're building a connection with your audience, you're adding value. When you're doing all these things, people are going to develop a level of trust with you. And so no matter what you put out there to your audience, no matter what you're talking about, you're always going to have people that are going to want to connect with you. And this is actually something that I realized because I had to be honest with myself. And I was like, I'm really good at sales. I love doing one-to-one conversations and helping people reframe their minds, getting them to a point where they want to make a life-changing decision. So I love sales. I love closing. But what I don't love is how long it takes to take them from that point to having that life-changing decision, from being a stranger to a life-changing decision. And what I would much prefer is that I could just do the exact same thing, get the same result, but with way less time investment. And so imagine this. If you take the approach of not having a personal brand and having to build a trust with each individual person that you speak with from the very beginning, it's almost like cold calling. You know, people are coming in, they don't really know who you are. They don't know what you stand for. They don't know how you're valuable. And then after that, like, you know, you've got to have such a long conversation with them to get connected if you want to have a higher likelihood of them buying. Whereas, imagine this. Imagine someone, before you even speak with them, they come to you and not only do they know who you are, like what your name is, what your business is, what you sell, but they've been getting value from you for like the last 5 years, every single day, tuning into your content 10 minutes a day or an hour a day. And now they get to hop on a phone call with you. Like, could you just imagine the difference? And in psychology, like it's a well-documented thing in terms of influence. A great book that will help you understand more about this is Robert Cialdini's book, which is about the psychology of influence. And he talks about in there one of these biases. So every bias is what we call a heuristic. And a heuristic is something that can help your brain to conserve mental energy. And one of the things that the brain will do to conserve mental energy is that it will use something called a reciprocity bias, meaning that as soon as you have an imbalance between how much has been received and how much has been given within an exchange and in a relationship, then the mind will do its best to bring things back to balance, even if the exchange doesn't necessarily match. So how this was displayed in the example that they gave in the book was, it was something like there were people who they would go to people's houses and they'd give them like a flower as a gift to start off with. And when people would get these flowers, they'd be like, oh, wow, this is so amazing. Thank you so much. And everything like that. they'd come back later on, and because of this bias, then they would ask for something in exchange and be like, will you sign up for this membership? We'll give you a discounted price as well. But, you can be on it for the next year or so, whatever it is. And they would buy. Why? Because they were given a gift initially. Now, here's the thing. People have, of course, become more accustomed to understanding that this bias is at play, because there's a lot more people out there who don't have pure intent, people who are trying to manipulate, use these biases to their advantage. But what I'm saying is less about trying to be using psychology to persuade a person to become a trusted buyer, but more about recognizing that if you are genuinely compassionate to another person and show kindness to them, that you can derive benefits from that yourself as well. So rather than just trying to do what a lot of people do in transactional businesses, when they're just thinking about money and they're not necessarily thinking about, really sustaining long-term success in relationships, is that all they focus on is just getting, like in their business, a lead magnet. If I just put out a lead magnet out there and I put out like a free trial or give them an ebook, people will read my ebook. After they read my ebook, they'll come to my page, they'll buy my thing, and then I will get some money from them. And it's this real taker's attitude, this taker's mentality. It doesn't come from abundance, it comes from scarcity. Whereas, imagine the difference of a person who's thinking, how can I change a person's life as best I possibly can before they ever get to see my lead magnet, before they ever get to come into my ecosystem, into my funnel. And if you take it from that approach, like that's coming now from abundance, because the fear that people tend to have that are entrepreneurs is that, well, if I give all my good stuff away for free, they won't want to buy anything from me. They'll be too fixed. They'll be too ready. They'll be too taken care of. And the truth is, a lot of people who are going to watch your content will never buy from you. They just will never buy from you. They were never meant to buy from you. So even if you had a great lead magnet, it's the same thing there. Like a lot of those people who come through as a lead in your ecosystem, they will never buy from you either. I had about 10,000 leads come through within my organization in about 12-month period. And a lot of those leads didn't buy. Thousands of them did not buy. And they were leads. We had their contact information. They showed a level of interest. But if I'd have been putting out like a lot more content first, and they came through the content as opposed to coming through just like a lead magnet and an advertisement basic, the conversion rate would have been so much higher, because, and not just the conversion rate would have been higher, but the actual cost to acquire a customer would have been lower. That's more so what I'm talking about. The cost to acquire a customer would have been lower because we wouldn't have had to spend as much time building a connection initially with the person, letting them know who we are, how we can help, what problems we solve. They'd have already known that way before coming in, and known how good we were at solving that problem, because we'd already solved many problems for them before they ever spoke with us. So this is like an approach that I had on a lot of my sales conversations that I was trying to ingrain into the people that I had in my sales team as well, which was difficult for them to understand because it was just so different to the backwards mindset of what's been taught in the past. And that is that, like, most sales processes focus a lot more on just trying to acquire a customer and sell them something that they'll buy in the least amount of time. That's the idea. It's like the Jordan Belfort's approach of the straight line persuasion. But because we're living in an economy right now where trust is just so low within the general marketplace, for you to go and just straight away get somebody to buy your thing, the likelihood that they're going to buy from you is going to be so low because they just don't know whether they can trust you, especially if they haven't met you in person or anything like that. It takes a lot more faith, and there's a lack of faith that exists right now in the world. So you have to do the opposite. You have to actually, rather than giving them your product and offer first and getting them to do a financial exchange, you've got to give them this experience of giving them the transformation, getting them the result before you put out your offer to like actually ask for money in exchange. Now, you can actually do it in a way where you tell people that you have an offer and tell people like, we've got a £15,000 offer, we've got a £5,000 offer, but we'll talk about that later on. Let's just focus on giving you the free stuff. And then if you're happy with this free experience later on, then let's agree that at least you'll take a look at what my paid stuff is like. Is that fair as an arrangement? And who's going to say no to that? No one. No one does say no to free information as long as it's genuinely good and it's helping them. Which is why putting out content on social platforms and things like that is such a great way to show proof as to how good you are at doing what you do. So what I'm not saying is like, go and build a brand where you get tons of followers and none of those followers know at all about how good you are, how much you actually can help them. And also what I'm not saying is like, okay, you've got loads of people that you've already helped, so go and just post testimonials, because that can work. But a lot of people, even now, becoming more skeptical of testimonials. They're more like, yeah, it worked well for them, but how is it going to work well for me? And so you might be thinking right now, well, I might have a product where it doesn't actually benefit people until they've bought it, because it's not an information product. It's like a physical product that they've got to buy and consume. And what I'd be saying there is that's where information becomes your best friend. Because the more information that you're providing to people, that's getting them to become more aware, changing their perspective, this is what's going to help them see like, he was the one that changed my perspective. And if he was able to do that for me here and educate me, then I'm probably going to want to buy from him more than anything, because I just trust that that person is like the expert in that particular area. So yeah, branding first, personal branding first, before focusing on product, before focusing on company, and playing the long game, really committing towards mastery. That's what it's about. Are you willing to be disciplined over the next year, 5 years, putting out content and seeing crickets for most of it? And just playing the volume game. Because here's the truth, is that, there was a study done where there was a group of people that had to make a bunch of vases, and they just had to make as many as they possibly could. And then another group of people had to just make one really good quality vase. And what they found was that the group of people who were asked to make just loads of vases ended up making more better quality vases than the group of people that just were given the task of making one really good quality vase. So what I'm saying for yourself here is that over time, through your artistry, if you've had experience in artistry in any other field, whether it's music, sports, painting, like any field that you can think of that was artistic, you will know what eventually starts to happen with your creative mind is that you just genuinely get better over time through failure, through experience, and through repetition and review. So the more that you take action, the more that you do, the more reps that you get in, the better that you get. Simple as. Like, it's that part's not rocket science to some people. They've never experienced that because they've never committed to doing something for such a long time that was significant. But if you're someone who has had that experience in any other area, whether it's parenting, business, job, career, education, like, you'll know that eventually you started to master it. And if there's anything that you could master in this day and age, let it be your personal branding. Especially if you're entrepreneurial, you want to be in business. Like, doing that daily. And it doesn't have to be the same way that I'm doing it. I'm just talking to the camera because for me, this is the way that I see it as the lowest cost of fulfillment and the highest depth of connection. Where it's going to be a real soul connection with people that I can imagine. Some people are going to watch like all my videos. I know it. If you're that person right now and you're watching this and you watched all my content, I love you. And I really appreciate you. And this is really truly for you. I hope that even if you don't become a client, a customer, we don't work together, we don't partner, whatever, you still derive so much value from everything that I'm sharing with you. But I do also recommend that you check out some of the stuff that I do, that I offer around opportunities and products and things like that, because I've got some great stuff. But I also know that I myself have actually consumed like hundreds of hours of content from certain people, and I've not bought any of their stuff. But I have truly had my life changed from them, and the desire to buy their stuff is like incredibly high, for sure. So, yeah. Imagine if you had that person that watched all your stuff and you changed their life, and all you had to do was put out your content. Like, it's different. But I'm not saying that you have to like speak to the camera for 30 minutes, an hour every single day. That's not how you have to build your personal brand. You don't have to do it that way. You could spend 30 minutes to an hour or 2 hours a day just making content that's really pretty for Instagram, Reels, TikToks, etc. It's just the way that I personally view it is, why would you want to do that? Why it's going to get maybe a shallower connection when it's so much easier to just express what you want to say like this. It all depends on your personality. There's no right or wrong answer. I just have my own personal preference. And I also know the value of people who connect with me through like really getting to know me on this deeper level, in comparison to like having a viral post where there's a wide range of people that get to know me. I believe that you want to have both. I really do. I'm not saying that I'm an advocate of just one or the other. I'm an advocate of both. But personally, the way that I'm seeing it is that there's a lot more people right now who produce short form content in business. Why? Because it's just easier to get into. You can produce a short form video within 30 seconds. So people really are being lazy when it comes to their personal branding. Because if you're producing one video in 30 seconds, and you're not doing any editing or anything like that, you're not doing any research, you could easily be producing 20 of those in an hour, easily. So you're just being lazy, really. Why? Because the game is easier now. The game is so much easier. But if you took the same work ethic that was required to succeed in the game 100 years ago and you brought it to this new modern age, especially with your personal branding, like, be a whole different experience. So if you do want to do that short form content and you're just putting out one post a day, like really ask yourself, are you putting in a couple of hours worth of work into this? Or an hour's worth of work at least? Or are you just doing the bare minimum? And if you are, you're being lazy. And I got to hold my hands up as well and say, like, when I used to put out short form content, I was being lazy. When I used to run ads, I was being lazy. And it still got me good results. It still was able to get like 10,000 leads by being lazy. That's how easy the game is right now. So, yeah. The message here, if you're not already getting it, it's really clear. Start with personal branding, number one. Number two, don't be lazy and work hard on your personal brand, because it will have a high payoff and you can enjoy it. You can literally talk about whatever you want to talk about, because the idea is your personal brand is not there to try to sell stuff. It's not what you're trying to do. You're trying to connect with people more than anything. So connect by being authentic and talking about whatever you like talking about, being passionate about that. In fact, the more you like talking about it, the better. The more you like talking about it, the more authentic it's going to come across. That's the easiest indicator of whether or not what you're putting out is what you should be putting out. Is it something that you genuinely love talking about? You could just talk about all day long. If not, it's probably not the best thing for you. Like, this is why gamers are able to build such huge personal brands. It's not because they're doing anything that the market like really needs and wants right now. It's more so because they're just willing to do it daily for hours a day, playing games, just putting out tons of content. So ask yourself that question, like, what's the one thing that you're willing to do daily, or willing to talk about, willing to create, and you're just happy doing it daily? And sometimes it's like, okay, you might not like talking to the camera, which is fine, but you like to do creative stuff. You like to make music. Well, make music with a camera filming you. You like to paint. I've seen loads of people who are on streaming platforms like Twitch. They're just like painting for hours and people are watching them. It's wild. Now, do you think that your target audience is going to be a better quality audience if they've just been watching you paint for days on end, hours on end? Maybe not. Maybe they ain't the type of busy people that will buy high ticket products. But if you have a personal brand where you are genuinely providing transformational content, educating people, adding value, and people are watching, that's a much higher quality audience, of which is going to be a lot more in alignment as well. So yeah, a few things to consider. And it's just a couple of things that I've been thinking about as of recent, that has helped me to become more consistent, put myself out there. And it can also help you to get out of your own way and take advantage of this incredible opportunity that we have in this new era to build personal brand around your lifestyle, your values, and attract your soul tribe. You got your queue of people waiting outside, and ensure that you're just going to have the maximum amount of success in the area that is going to give you the most fulfillment. That's the main thing. Not just thinking about the financial aspect and achieving, but also about learning that art of fulfillment and mastering that too. Both of them are important. So yeah, this has been my video today. Thanks for tuning in and listening. Hopefully you've taken some value, and I'll see you on the next one. Peace and love. Till next time.